Hello, history fans. Just a really quick video today to talk about some of our fun music. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun listening to our songs, our countercultural and new right songs. And this is just a really quick video to make sure you kind of pulled all of the important things out and talking about these, why we're talking about these songs in particular. How are these songs relate to each other? So the first song that I had you listen to is Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind. This is like the countercultural song, the New Left song. Blowing in the Wind's Bob Dylan's first big hit. It's the thing that launches him to fame. Bob Dylan, as we talked about in the little intro that I wrote, he's a folk singer. He's a folk singer and songwriter. So his MO is he just wanders around talking to people. He's really good about talking to people, listening to their stories, and he's able to just kind of get his thumb on the pulse of the moment. And so his song Blowing in the Wind has in it all three of those classic countercultural concerns. He talks about wanting an end to war. He wants about wanting to have better race relations. And it talks about wanting to live authentically, whatever that means. So after you've listened to the song, I hope you were able to pull out those three things. When he's talking about wanting to ban cannonballs, and he talks about the white dove of peace. He wants to end war. Living authentically, he says, what is the quote? What's the lyric? How many times can a man turn his head pretending he just doesn't see? How long are we as a society going to sweep things under the rug and ignore our problem instead of trying to face our problems head on? When he's talking about race relations, how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Kind of alluding to all of those civil rights protests and marches that we see throughout the 1960s. Everybody's marching and walking down roads and across bridges, trying to get citizenship and basic rights. How long is that going to have to happen? So Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind really kicked us off there as far as our discussion about the counterculture. Our next song was CCR, the first CCR. Fortunate Son. This is nowadays it's weird because I think, this song has come to mean something else. A lot of people hear it and assume that it's a pro-war song, or a pro-military song, at least pro-military, but it's very much not. It's against the draft. The problem, one of the many problems with Vietnam War, is that there's a draft on, and so many hundreds and eventually thousands of young men are drafted. They don't want to go to war. They're sent across the ocean to die and not come back. One of the easiest, most frequent ways to escape the draft was to go to college. In this era, this is an era before there were a lot of like federal work study programs, or there's no FAFSA. So generally speaking, if you went to college, that was because you were able to pay for it. Your family was relatively wealthy and affluent, and you could escape the draft by buying your way out and going to college. So kids who are in college are very cognizant of that fact, and it's sort of a feeling of there but for the grace of God go I, and they see how their brothers and their boyfriends and their best friends are being drafted and being sent to die in a war that they don't believe in. So CCR coming out pretty hard against the draft, and saying that, that ain't me. That's kind of the refrain. I'm not a senator's son. I'm not a millionaire's son. I'm not fortunate. I'm not affluent. I can't escape the draft. My daddy doesn't know somebody who knows somebody who can get me off. So he is gonna, this narrator of the song is gonna go to war and probably not come back. So CCR's Fortunate Son against the draft really speaks to a couple of things for us. I think I mentioned this in the little intro that I wrote. It's an anti-war movement song. It's written as part of the anti-war movement, but it's also, for our purposes in here, a good example of one of those countercultural concerns. They want an end to the war. They want peace. The second countercultural concern that we talked about is better race relations. And our example for that was Sly and the Family Stone. They are one of the first big, popular, majorly successful, completely integrated bands. They have men and women, black people and white people living on a tour bus together. Oh my God. So Sly and the Family Stone, very successful, completely integrated band, and they're one of their hit songs, which is pretty popular. You probably had heard it before. I bet you had heard CCR before too. Pretty popular too. Everyday people, making the point that different strokes for different folks. The things that make us the same are a lot more important than the things that make us different. We're all just everyday people. The fat one, the skinny one, the brown one, the white one, the wealthy one, the poor one. We're all just living our best life, doing the best that we can, trying to make it through. The things that make us the same are a lot more important than things that make us different. Sly and the Family Stone, talking about better race relations. We can all come together. We've got to live together. I'm not going to sing it. What's the second one? The next one I talked about. The Doors. The Doors. I love that story. I know I wrote that story in the little intro. The Doors are wild. Jim Morrison, he goes off the rails later in life, so I don't think you should like hold him up as an example, but pretty cool guy as far as guys go. He wants to live authentically, whatever that means. And for him personally, that means not lying about who he is. He goes on live national public family television, sings about drug use. So The Doors, an example of that countercultural concern of living authentically. They want to be genuine. They don't want to lie about who they are. They don't want to sweep their problems under the rug. I don't know that Jim Morrison would think that his drug use was a problem, capital P, but probably others would. So okay, that literally speaks to our pillar of authenticity. The last song that we talked about, listened to, was Merle Haggard's "Okie from Muskogee." I'm pretty sure that you guys had all at least heard of that song. The funny thing about that song is it's meant as satire. Like, Merle Haggard's kind of a bad boy, right? It's meant to be a joke, but the joke flies right over people's heads, and they just sort of take it and run with it. It seems on face value to be a song about how awesome the new right is and how truly terrible the new left is. The thing about the 1960s is that they last forever. They're exhausting. There's so much angst. We talked about the 1960s as a decade of cultural civil war. There's all of these people agitating for all of these things, and they're throwing a big fit, and they're being really loud, and it's exhausting, and people are just tired. And so the new right rises, this social and then political movement that really is pushing back against the counterculture, pushing back against the new left, and saying, y'all need to just calm down. They think that the majority of Americans are calm, that they want a return to the status quo, the new right. So the new right song, sort of, that we listened to was Merle Haggard's "Okie from Muskogee." That seems on the surface to be all about how dramatic, over dramatic the new left is. They're and then, by extension, how calm and chill and better the new right movement is. The new right likes to characterize itself, as seen in this song, as everything that they don't do. They don't smoke marijuana, they don't do LSD, they don't make a party out of loving, no orgies, no drugs, no long shaggy hair, no shaggy clothes. In the video that we watched, Merle Haggard and his band are wearing suits, and they're clean cut and they're clean shaven. They look very upright and prim and proper. They talk about what they do, that they are patriotic Americans. They fly the flag. They don't burn their draft cards. So there's all of these things that they do or don't do to try to differentiate themselves from the new left, the counterculture. And they think that makes them better, calmer, more patriotic Americans. So I hope that you enjoyed listening to some of our fun music, and y'all don't work too hard. Bye-bye.